I can't hear you.
Well, now.
That's better.
All right, well, let's start over. Welcome back into another edition of Prime Sports World. Of course, your host, David. I'm helping right there is my co-host, TJ Hopkins. Today is the first of our season preview episodes, and we're going to start with the Carolina Panthers. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. We're about to go through every single team from the National Football League. Happy Tuesday, TJ. How are you?
Same stuff, different day.
Yeah.
You know.
Let's just not waste any time. Let's jump right into this. Let's talk about the Carolina Panthers. So, new coach, new GM. Did they get the hire right this time? Dave Canellis comes over. He was the offensive coordinator for the
Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay. Yeah, he was there for Baker Mayfield, and they bring in Dan Morgan to be the GM for this franchise. As we haven't heard a lot from the man upstairs months this season. Or at least his offseason a little bit with David Tepper. David Tepper's kind of stayed out of it a little bit. Did they get this coaching hire right? And it's probably way too early to even know.
It's too early to know. If the issue that you have is one, you hired in division. So it's not like he's gonna throw stuff at it's not like he's gonna do stuff at Carolina that he didn't do differently at Tampa Bay. Also, if you're the Carolina Panthers, you kind of have to temper your expectations. Yes, you have Bryce Young, who's going to be better. You got me?
I think it's me. I think I'm having big time problems. Okay. So,
yes, you have Bryce Young, but you don't have a Mike Evans. You don't have a Chris Godwin to throw that ball to. So temper your expectations. Again, and you hired a guy who the other three teams, they know what he likes to do. So the challenge for Dave Canellis is, how can I incorporate the same stuff but trick the opposition into doing what I want them to do? Did they get the new coach and the GM right? Might be too early to tell, but at the same time, this is David Tepper. He's not a patient person, which I don't understand. Like he's the perfect example of slamming your head into a brick wall and expecting it to work out the next time you do it. Like it still hurts. Like he's like, I'm gonna ram my head into a wall, but it hurts. Well, I'm gonna wear a helmet this time, but it still doesn't work. Like it hurts. It probably just doesn't hurt as much. I think he has to stick this one out.
I think one of the saving graces here for Dave Canellis is the fact that if you're the Carolina Panthers, you got to look at what he did with Baker Mayfield. Man, I almost need to restart my computer, but I can't do that in the middle of a show. He turned Baker Mayfield's career around. I mean, he was a 1-year flyer there in Tampa Bay, and he's an undersized quarterback, just kind of like Bryce Young. I like the new head coach, and I think they did a good job at bringing him in. I think within division, yes, it's a little bit concerning, but I think he's going to be a good coach for this. And I agree with you. This guy is not a guy you can fire after even 1 season or 2 seasons. Like, you have to give this guy some time to really build something here in Carolina.
Yeah, you gotta sit that down. Yeah, you gotta sit down, and that's kind of the disappointment in the bringing it back up, like the Matt Rule firing. Like, you gave Matt Rule a 6-year deal. You fired him after 2 because the rebuild or whatever wasn't going as fast as you wanted it to go. Like, what did you expect to happen?
Yeah.
Like, did you expect to go from worst in the division to wild card in a year? Like, no, shit takes time, and then you get absolutely fleeced by a rookie GM and Ryan Poles, who who's been making moves like he done been here before, and it's like, hey, you this is what you got. You got to ride it out now.
Swinging from him, let's talk about Bryce Young. A really underwhelming rookie season, but really not put in a position to really be successful there in Carolina. Adam Thielen was his best receiver along with Hayden Hurst. 2,800 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. What are your expectations for Bryce Young in year two? They did add a Deontay Johnson. They drafted Xavier Legette. They brought in, I guess that's about it. They did bring in, they did draft Jonathan Brooks. What are
Running back out
your
of Texas.
Jonathan Brooks is a running back?
Yeah, out of Texas.
Yeah.
My expectation is like, hey, can't be no worse than what it was. Right? Like,
I don't think that's necessarily true.
it got to a point for Bryce Young that his parents wore Alabama gear to the Carolina Panthers game because they was like, I want my son to be associated with some form of winning. Like they were, yeah. That's what it got to. I found it funny that Carolina Panthers fans were like laughing at the Bears for making that trade, and it's like, really, like your best player is now ours.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So I mean, but you bring in Deontay Johnson. I mean, they kind of tried to put some weapons around him. They boistered this offensive line this offseason. We'll talk about that in a little bit later. But they added a Damian Lewis, they added a Robert Hunt to kind of really build up this offensive line. You think Eki Ekwonu was going to take a third-year step after his pretty poor second season, after what was a really strong first season, or at least mediocre. I think he's going to bounce back in a kind of a surprising way, and maybe not we're not expecting him to throw for 4,000 yards this season, but I don't expect his turnover to interception ratio to be 1-to-1. I look for him to throw 20 touchdowns. I look for him to cut back on the interceptions. I think that was the good thing that he did with Baker Mayfield, cut back on those mistakes from Baker Mayfield. I'm looking at 3,500 yards, 20 touchdowns, 8 picks. I mean, if he does that, I think that would be an upgrade. That would be a substantial step forward.
Yeah, I still think he throws double digit interceptions just because, hey, you're still learning. Like, are you gonna make the same mistakes that you made last year? Hopefully not, but you're still young. Like these guys are, you're still young. You're still gonna make the same mistakes. You're still learning a new system. It's your second one, so yeah, you're gonna have growing pains while learning a new system. You can look fine and dandy in camp because why, you're throwing against air. You're throwing against guys who don't want to hurt you. When it's the real deal Holyfield, the other team ain't gonna stop running because they pick the ball off and give it back to you. Like, all right, let's try this again. No, it's gonna be real.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think that I mean you're right. It can't get any worse. But I think that they've hired the right guy to make the kind of adjustments. Let's talk about the defense here for a second. For a few years, between the Bryce Young era of Carolina Panther football and kind of the very end of the Cam Newton era, this is a defense that kind of people talked about as a super underrated unit. Brian Burns is no longer on this roster. He got traded to the New York Football Giants for 2 first-round picks, I think, or one, whatever the deal was that they got back for. Might not even been a first-round pick. They might have gotten a second. But that defense no longer has him on this team. They've added Javion Clowney. They added Dane Jackson, which we're talking free agency here in a minute. But J.C. Horn, when he's healthy, he's one of the best cover guys in the NFL. Yeah, Derek Brown. If Derek Brown wasn't on the team that he's on, he would have way more Pro Bowl selections because he's been really good in the NFL since he got there. But nobody pays attention to him because he's on the Panthers.
Well, Joe Thomas went through that a lot, in Cleveland, but that didn't stop him from making the Pro Bowl. The J.C. Horn, when he's healthy, he's issuing in, he's a part of that new generation of, shutdown corners, the younger guys that's coming up. Him, Sauce Gardner. It's crazy to think that Jalen Johnson is already in year 5. It's amazing how fast it goes, but he's still in that iteration. Yeah, that just goes back to show like the bad, like how poorly they've been ran. Like you've been sitting on Brian Burns for the last 2-3 years, where you could
And
have gotten
and there
so.
was an offer on the table from the Los Angeles Rams, 2 first-round picks they could have had, and they don't. I'm not. I'm going to look up the trade right now.
I got it right now. They got a 2024 second and a 2025 fifth. When you
Yeah,
could have
we could have had
like
2 first-round picks. Talk about fumbling in the bag. Like,
like when you traded away DJ Moore, that's when you should have every valuable asset you got. That's when you should have just said, like, because you did it with McCaffrey. You got fleeced on that deal. You got fleeced in the DJ Moore trade. You got fleeced here with Brian Burns. Like, y'all are
just out of curiosity, because I enjoy curiosity, where do you think the Carolina Panthers ranked in terms of yards allowed last season on the defensive side per
you
game?
wouldn't be asking this question if it was surprisingly very good. I'm gonna go middle of the pack.
They were the 4th best defense in terms of yards per game last season. 4th.
And they had the worst record in football.
But I mean, when it comes to points allowed per game, points allowed per game is a little wishy-washy because the defense doesn't give up all of those points. But they were 4th to last in terms of points given up per game, and yet they gave up the 4th least yards in the entire NFL last season. Doesn't add up. Doesn't add up. Doesn't add up. Doesn't add up. Something's not right. The math ain't mathing, as DJ likes to say.
The math ain't mathing, bro. Like it's
And I still think that this is a team that's going to lean on this defense of this unit. I mean, they're gonna run the football. That's why they have 7,000 running backs on this team. Their defense is still going to be good.
Like we see it all the time. Like we see it all the time. We see it here in Chicago. We see it in Pittsburgh lately. We saw it in like you see it in like with the Giants. It look like depending on the year. Like you see these teams that just have super stacked or really good defenses, and it's like, but their records are terrible or like take the Bears for instance, like 7-10, but one after they made a move became one of the top defenses in the league, and still lost some games they had to lead. Why? Because the defense is tired.
Yeah.
Like the defense is exhausted. It's almost like, can you get me one more stop? And it's like, no, we can't.
I'm sorry, I'm tired. I can't do it. But yeah, I expect this defense to still be pretty good even without Brian Burns. It's unfortunate the way that played out. I think they still have some talent on this defense. I mean, Javion Clowney's on this team, so
I don't it's asking, like, again, it's asking. They're going to be the Bears defense before Montez Sweat got here. Like when your best pass rusher was Yannick Ngakoue, and it's like, like if you have a solid to good left tackle or right tackle, you can slow him down. Like so, if you're playing the Carolina Panthers defense, like first off, Jadeveon Clowney, who's never really
he's never been a pass rusher. He's more of a run stopper. At every point of his career, he's been a run stopper.
Definitely more of a run stopper at this, like you said, he's been more of a run stopper than the pass rusher. So it's
he had that one play at Michigan, which was also a run stop,
which is also a run stop. It's like, yep, that got him a first overall pick. That's the one that. But like, no, I'm not going to be disrespectful. Like that dude is 6'5". He runs
yeah.
Like he's fast.
But yeah, I expect this defense to still be pretty solid. Let's swing into their draft. So yeah, obviously took a wide receiver. They took wide receiver, running back, linebacker with the first 3 picks, and then they took a swing on the kid from Texas, line tight end, Chachu Smith-Wade, a cornerback out of Washington State. Took some depth at the defensive line, and then another depth pick at the linebacker position with Michael Barrett, the kid out of Michigan. Yeah, I think the conversation, trading back up into the first round to take a wide receiver. You get the 5th year now because you have the extra option year by making him a first round pick, and he's got all the intangibles to be a big time wide receiver at the next level. Because the Panthers last season had 1 reception and throws over 30 yards in the air. That's the fewest in the league since the Bengals did it with 0 4 years ago.
Like the
Legit in
concept,
college, had 10 catches of that just alone last season at South Carolina with Spencer Rattler throwing him the football.
the concept is there. You know what I'm saying? The plan is there. Like you got super duper speed on the outside. You got this kid. I think you still got Terrence Marshall Jr. from LSU. I think
Yeah.
he's still there. And then
Jonathan Mingo, who they took last season or the season before.
season before that, and then you got the wily vet in
Adam Thielen.
Adam Thielen, who's gonna be the what you call it, the
I mean, he's your slot receiver probably.
like the insurance card. Like hey, when in doubt, get the ball to Adam Thielen, get the hell out the way. Hey Adam, just do what you always do. Get the first down, get down. It's like getting the Xavier Leggett to that one where you got him at, that's a steal. Like that's an absolute steal. Getting Jonathan Brooks in the second round, it's almost like, all right, what's the plan with that? Like you said, you have 50,000 running backs on your roster.
Not literally 50,000, but Chuba Hubbard's on this team. Miles Sanders is on this team. Rashad Penny. I mean, they didn't even use Miles Sanders, and they paid him a bunch of money. It's a real head scratching decision. But if he's a difference maker at the running back position, and he's a guy that can take the pressure off of Bryce Young, it's probably a good move. But if you can run the ball 400 plus times, and
you brought that up a lot last year. Like you paid Miles Sanders a bunch of money, and you don't use him. Like it's probably the worst year in Miles Sanders' career.
100%.
Like
Jonathan Brooks is also coming off that ACL tear. Like he was explosive. Like he gives you a change of pace that you don't have with those other guys at running back. I think he could be something like Chris McCaffrey was when he was there. If he can get healthy.
Miles Sanders played in 16 games last year. He started 5. He only had 129 carries, 432 yards.
Yeah, I'm aware of.
Oh yeah, fantasy. My bad.
Yeah, I'm aware.
It's I don't know. Like again, like the same outlook I had for the Bears last year is the same outlook I have for them to an extent. It's like, hey, it can't get no worse. Like you can only go up from here. Do I expect them to go from 3 wins like the Bears did to 7 wins? No. What did they do? What they go last year?
Hold on. I don't. They went 2-15 last year.
All right, 2-15.
And we'll get to that part of the show where we talk about the expectations here in a minute. But yeah, swinging. I mean, they took an inside linebacker with their other draft pick, even though they have Josie Jewell and Shaq Thompson still under contract, and brought them back. Yeah, I don't know. And then they got a tight end who's more of a project. He could be super explosive. He can get healthy. Yeah. And then the rest of the players that they kind of drafted are all flyer guys. Like, defensive back, you need depth at that position. You could use depth at the defensive tackle. This kid's 6'4", 302 pounds. He can play a little bit inside and outside. And then Michael Barrett, coming from a winning franchise. He's a little undersized to play linebacker, 5'11", 233 pounds. But I mean, he probably could give you some special teams help. It's a 7th round pick.
And yeah, Michael Barrett in Michigan, you're on the national championship team. It's hard to stand out. Like people got to look up Michael Barrett highlights. Yeah. It is what it is.
From the draft, let's talk about free agency. Obviously, they added Deontay Johnson via the trade. They got Robert Hunt, Dane Jackson in free agency. Remember, Dane Jackson was kind of like a wanted commodity when he was in Buffalo. That's kind of been crazy how his fall. Damian Lewis, another guard, they got him as well. And then Javion Clowney, some of they signed. And then the big departures. I mean, Brian Burns, Jeremy Chin, and Hayden Hurst. All big parts of what they did last season, especially Jeremy Chin. Didn't he win Defensive Rookie of the Year one season, or was in the conversation for it? But he never really captured the magic that he had from that first season.
No, not really.
But I mean, this is kind of what your roster looks like when you lose Brian Burns, you fumble that situation up. Deontay Johnson, if he's a talented wide receiver, and he could be a wide receiver 1, but he hasn't proven in the NFL that he can do that. This is his last shot to really do that. He's going on an expiring contract. And when we talked about free agency, there's a lot of money for Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis to play the guard position for the Carolina Panthers. Let me pull, if I can pull up the exact amount, but it's a considerable amount of money for those two guys.
Oh yeah, I remember y'all talking about that. Like y'all were not happy with the money that they got.
I mean, it's a ton of money. Hold on,
You and Izzy.
all right.
Like
So
y'all
Robert
were,
Hunt is going to be making $44 million when his contract's up in guarantees. And then where's I can't even find the other guy. Damian Lewis. Sorry, hold on. Damian Lewis is making $26 million, but that's not as bad. But he went to Seattle. But yeah, it's a lot of money for the guard position. But I mean, in order to get guys to come there, you got to overpay them. And if this improves their offensive line and makes it so Bryce Young has a better season, it's going to be worth it.
yeah.
Same thing with Deontay Johnson.
Yeah. Well, Deontay Johnson is what you call it. Like he's like if it's in the name of making your quarterback better, like I don't think you can really truly overpay for weapons. Like now, people might say, sorry about my alarm now. People might say that, like people might look at that and be like, oh, but look at like certain deals, like a Kenny Galladay, and it's what like you didn't see Kenny Galladay falling off a cliff the way that he did.
No, nobody thinks.
Nobody did. Like when Kenny Galladay got that money from the Giants, everybody was like, yo, that's a ha ha ha. That's a bargain, like because he could have got more than what he was asking for. Immediately it's like, hey, you got this guy Deontay Johnson who Darius Slay was asked who was the most underrated receiver in the game, and he said Amari Cooper. But if somebody was to come out and say Deontay Johnson is the most underrated receiver in football, don't act like they ain't got an argument. Like this,
Yeah,
like
I mean, the dude is talented.
Like the dude was making Kenny Pickett's life a little bit easier up there in Pittsburgh, just a little bit. But yeah, I don't think like the loss of Brian Burns is, in my opinion, for this team, too colossal to just gloss over the guys that they brought in. Like you can try to sugarcoat it any way you want. Losing a potential All-Pro edge rusher and replacing him with what exactly is?
I mean, I guess Clowney is who the guy they're gonna have to. Who's gonna have to, and then Clavon Taysom, who's been basically a bust since he got into the NFL. Just calling a spade. He's been a bust since he got into the NFL.
You could argue he ain't been used correctly in Carolina. Like Clavon Taysom, like
I mean, this is his first season in Carolina. He was drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars 4 years ago.
Same thing. Like it's the same argument. Like you can make the argument like
he's got 5 sacks in his entire career.
And at the same time, like, well, wasn't he an edge rusher at LSU? So it's like you put him in Jacksonville where they have Josh Allen. Okay, you're not moving Josh Allen off the edge. Not doing that. You're not moving Josh Allen off the edge. So that's like, where are you going to put Clavon Taysom?
But Clavon Taysom was supposed to be what Josh Allen is.
No, not really.
Yeah, like he was supposed to be an edge rusher. Supposed to put like Josh Allen was like a third or fourth round pick.
Josh Allen.
I could be wrong about that though.
Josh Allen was drafted like 4th overall, dude. What are you saying?
Hold on. I can't.
7th overall. My bad. Excuse me.
Really?
7th overall.
Really? Okay.
Josh Allen was drafted 2019 first round, 7th overall. Come on now.
My bad. I thought he was like a 2nd round pick. I apologize.
No. No. Like you can argue that Caleb coming out of LSU. First off, I think one of the knocks about Caleb Taysom was that he was not undersized when he came. Like when he not now, probably when he came out.
I mean, he was really like a Leonard Floyd type when he came out. Like he was just like a athletic specimen. And yeah.
Like it was. It'll work. Like I don't know if you're Carolina. I think losing Brian Burns and not replacing him. I think that's not being talked about enough. in my
Yeah,
opinion.
I tend to agree with you, but I think the writing was on the wall that he was going to be gone. But I think you
Yeah,
could have optimized
no,
him to
no, no, no.
return.
You're right. I think that's what it is. Like you didn't get all you could have gotten for him. Like
Yeah,
you got a second round pick in this year's draft, this past
a
draft,
fifth next year.
and a fifth next year. And who did you use that pick on?
I think they used that pick to trade up to with.
Was that the Jonathan Brooks pick?
No, I mean it may have been, but they did use some sort of assets to trade back into the first round. So I'm not sure if that was the pick that they used or what.
I don't know. Like when we get to they when we get to they schedule, I'll yeah. Come on.
Moving on to the last part of the show, and we got their schedule, and we're going to do this a little bit different this year. Instead of going through every single game, because things change throughout the season, we're just going to talk ceiling and floor. Just looking at their schedule, looking at what they think they're going to be able to accomplish this season. Let's be positive Pete's here on this show, because that's what we
No,
like to be. No?
no.
You want to be a negative Nancy?
It's so. What else is there? Like, hey,
This is a positive Pete show, so we're going to be positive. Let's talk about their ceiling. At their highest expectation, what is the ceiling for the Carolina Panthers? How many wins do you think is their ceiling this season?
6,
Just looking at their schedule.
6.
I think you're being a little. I mean, I think it's about 5 or 6. I think this is a tough. Like, it's for being a bad football team. This is not an easy schedule. I mean, you got to play the AFC West this season, and you got to play. Hold on, you got to play the NFC East this season. That is not an easy draw whatsoever. And then you, in your own division, Atlanta made a bunch of moves to improve. Tampa Bay should be better. The New Orleans Saints are still the Saints. Like, you got to go to London or Germany, I think, to play a home game against the Giants. That is not going to be easy.
You come to Chicago.
Yeah.
Again, you go to Like you already said, you play the you play the AFC West and you play the East, the NFC East. Who everybody in the NFC East that 0-4 right there. You're not beating anybody.
I agree. Yeah, but I think 5 or 6 wins is probably the ceiling. Let's talk about on the other side of the coin. Let's be a little more negative. Let's talk about the floor.
Repeat 2-15. Like because it's like I don't think anyone, and hopefully I don't think anyone's gonna go 0-17 now. I just don't think that's gonna happen. I think anybody can be beaten on, like, it's called any given Sunday for a reason. Anybody can be beaten. I don't see anyone
I'm gonna go for, like, their floor is probably 1 win, but I think, like, they have some games that I look at their schedule. I think they're winnable, right? I think they could go to Las Vegas because defense travels and they're going to run the football. I think they could beat Las Vegas in Las Vegas.
They can't.
I'm not even sure who the quarterback's going to be for the Las Vegas Raiders. I know it's probably Gardner Minshew in the Minshew Mania.
Probably going to be Minshew Mania, but we're not going to have like Minshew Mania.
Washington Commanders. They could go to Washington and beat them. They could go to Denver, depending on what that situation is in Denver, and beat them. They could potentially beat New Orleans at their place, maybe. So I got 4 wins that they could potentially get. But I'm only gonna have them win 1 game. I think they can beat the Washington Commanders. That's the only game they win this season.
I think the only game they win is probably Arizona, if that's their floor. But I have Arizona as one of their like 5 or 6 wins anyway. So I think they split with the Saints. So that's what. So Arizona, New Orleans, that's 2. What's the quarterback situation with the Giants? Is it still
Dan Jones, man?
Still Danny Dimes? Okay.
Yeah, Danny Dimes, Jones, whatever you want.
Okay, I was distraught. That's winnable. I'm gonna be fair. That's a winnable game. Sorry, Christian. Would I be surprised if the Giants beat Carolina? Absolutely not.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants were like a playoff team next season.
Can they beat Denver? Maybe. Bo Nix, rookie quarterback. Sean Payton.
or Zach Wilson, whoever happens to be the quarterback.
It's Bo Nix. It's gonna be Bo Nix. Yeah. So like the one, like I got them split with New Orleans. That's one. An asterisk by Washington. An asterisk by the Giants. That's three. And okay, and Arizona. That's four, and one of those other divisional games might come down to one or two possessions, just off GP, just because like they divisional opponents.
Yeah.
You know
So yeah, it's looking bleak for the Carolina Panthers, but you got to start somewhere if they're going to build on this franchise. They started with bringing a new head coach and a new GM, and David Tepper has mostly been out of the news, at least as far as I know, because
awesome.
I don't watch ESPN anymore ever.
No. You haven't heard. You ain't heard a thing about David Tepper. Okay, because you don't watch ESPN, like
I don't have cable, so I don't.
And you really need to fix that. The what you call it, like it's more so the usual suspects that they talk about this time of year in football, like the Cowboys. Jerry Jones ain't did much of nothing. Aaron Rodgers not attending a mandatory minicamp after tearing his Achilles, and that stuff. It's like, dude, how do you not go to mandatory minicamp when you were hurt? Like, we doing this, like this is right all on you. What else is there? What else?
Oh, we don't have to get into what they cover on ESPN right
it's
now. But
not it's just more so like they really not getting into football stuff until like maybe like later this month, until teams start reporting.
Training camp is in August, I think. So
no,
the very end of July.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like later this month, when it's like teams got to report the training camp, because the Hall of Fame game is August 1st. So yeah, like teams got about 2 weeks before like, hey.
The NFL is going to be turning it up. But this has been our Carolina Panthers season preview. Thank you very much for joining us. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. We're going to be back here doing another season preview. I think the Atlanta Falcons are the next team on the list.
I'll tell you what, David Tepper did say something like there's something going on with the stadium. I think he wants to like revamp it or something.
Well, I mean, it's still the original stadium that they built in 1988 or 1999. So I imagine, or 1995-ish, or whatever year that was.
It's something along the lines of that. But yeah, like he wants. It was. I want to say it was like boredom. I don't even think it was like necessarily like truly controversial, but it was deemed that way because it's David Tepper, and you're making demands and your team just won 2 games this past season.
Yeah, I mean your tickets were like 45 cents a pop. Like if you want to build a new stadium. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us, Carolina season preview. I'm David Huffman, right there, my co-host, Mr. TJ Hopkins. Thank you very much for checking us out. We're going to continue with these season previews. We're going to keep talking about NBA free agency as that starts to wind down over the next week or so. So thank you very much for joining us. And TJ, what would you hit the prime, my friend?
We bring the heat.
Also, so my cat is at my parents' house for the next 2 weeks because I'm going on vacation next week, on Sunday, and I'm really missing her. Like it's really strange. Like, I'm so used to seeing my cat when I get home from work. I'm so used to seeing my cat when I wake up. It's just like, So we'll be back here tomorrow. You guys all have a good night and stay safe out there. Peace out.